Welcome, esteemed participants. We will please give just a few minutes to allow others to join.
Well,
Esteemed panelists and participants, we will start the webinar now. The Resource and Support Hub, RSH, is a foreign and Commonwealth development organization, formerly known as DFID. It's a new that supports the new program, which supports organizations in the aid sector to strengthen their policy and practice in safeguarding, in particular on sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment. I am Dr. Eleanor Wadinobi, Senior Advisor of the Nigeria Resource and Support Hub. I also wear another hat as International President of the Medical Women's International Association, and I will be chairing the webinar today. Now, leadership commitment is paramount to having a strong safeguarding culture. Indeed, today we have 3 Nigerian civil society organizations, CSOs. We have their executive and deputy executive directors who will discuss their safeguarding journey, inherent challenges, why, and how leaders can continue to remain committed. We have a great panel lined up for today. So let me introduce our esteemed panelists. I'll start by introducing Josephine Haber. Josephine is the National Coordinator and founder of Jaire Do Foundation, JDF. She has over 17 years working experience in the development sector and is a seasoned humanitarian with a heart for the marginalized and vulnerable in the society. Josephine is also the serving president of NINGONET, a humanitarian network, and she is the West Africa Action Network on Small Arms president also, WANSA, the Nigeria chapter. I'll introduce next Bose Abomberele Ironsi. She is the founder and executive rights of Women's Rights and Health Project and manager of Ireti Resource Center. She is a passionate and committed feminist with 25 years of experience. Her passion is to strengthen and build the capacity of the next generation of women leaders at community level. We also have with us today Adamu Mohammed. He is the Deputy Executive Director and Director of Programs and co-founder Northeast Youth Initiative for Development, NAIF. His passion is to support marginalized and conflict-affected persons, giving them the opportunity to achieve their fullest potential and promoting their general well-being. So before we turn to our panelists, let me take you through some housekeeping, please. First of all, you are all on mute with your videos turned off. This is intentional, please, to support with the quality and connection of the webinar. Secondly, if you have any issues with the technology or otherwise, you can put a note in the chat function and one of us will reach out to you. Please be aware that we are recording this webinar in order to share on the online hub afterwards for anyone who was not able to join. And be rest assured that your names will not be visible. After the panelists session, we will have a Q&A session. If you'd like to ask any questions during the presentation, you will find the Q&A function in the controls panel at the bottom of your screen. And you can actually add new questions or update any existing questions, and we will answer them at the end. Please, we do not encourage use of the chat for Q&A. I'm delighted to also let you know that we have closed captioning available, and you can activate that depending on the configuration of your device next to the Q&A or record buttons, and it should have the initials CC. So with that, let's now go to our panelists, and I shall be asking them the questions in turn. I'll start with you, Josephine. What do safeguarding or prevention of sexual abuse, exploitation, and harassment really mean? And why is it important for NGOs?
Thank you very much, Dr. Lenu. I'm pleased to say that safeguard are systems that organizations put in place to ensure friendly environment. Well, people say safeguard, and then the short form of the safeguard, it's the PSEA. It's a system put in place, organizations put in place to ensure that their staff are more friendly at work and not molested or abused while at work. And the environment is such that NGOs, it's very important for NGOs to have safeguard in place because it promotes integrity and actually accountability for whatever work that we're doing. It's also, for me, much more as value for money. It helps you to ensure that you do not have so much waste, even as you go on in engagement of staff or several other processes of vendors and all that. And also it projects and promotes the NGO in the larger community of development or humanitarian. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josephine. I'll pose the same question to Adamu.
Thank you very much. Just to build on what the previous panelist has made their own contribution on, safeguarding is actually a system that ensures that you as an organization, the people you interact with, you are safe to be engaged with. People have confidence to work with you beyond the staffs, including the beneficiaries you engage with in communities. Without without safeguarding system or policy, it actually may undermine the reputation of an organization. Looking at the abuses that are involved in PSCA, especially like sexual exploitation and abuse. If you don't have system to actually curtail the happenings of sexual exploitation and abuse and making your organization safe, it undermines your reputation as an organization. People will be afraid, not having confidence to engage with you. So having the system is actually very important for civil society organizations to develop and actually not only developing, but to make it institutionalized, where it actually works.
Thank you so much, Adamu.
Thank you.
Josephine, you spoke about ensuring that the fact that it promotes integrity and accountability. And Adamu, you spoke about institutionalizing. We are having some technical issues as it seems our panelist Bosse may have dropped off the call. But you see, in these days of virtual and remote working, we understand that these things can happen. But we will continue with you, Adamu. Can you share some of your organization's experience in safeguarding and what you have put in place in your organization?
Actually, considering the context where I come from in the Northeast, where we have a lot of interventions with, which is humanitarian interventions. At the beginning, sexual exploitation is like you see staffs, volunteers engaged with give and take. People coming to seek and then they have something in return also that they are in need of. So at that point, we don't have a system in place that actually will go in depth to deal with investigation and even to possibly maybe, take action on those people violating those people. And with the coming of, in 2019, that was when we began to come across PSCA, Prevention of Sexual Exploitation and Abuse, and we tried to have the policy in place. When we were assessed on our PSCA in 2019, we have shortcomings until when in 2020 we saw this opportunity to engage with RSH, and with their mentoring session and coaching, we were able to strengthen our policy. And at the moment, we are rated at moderate. Our policy is a bit strong, further than what we have. And currently, we have already a focal person also in our organization. And we also try to engage community in focus group.
Thank you, Adamu. It looks like the connectivity affected just towards the end. But, Adamu was so, thank you for being gracious in sharing your journey of, where you were in the humanitarian sector and how you have progressed.
Community outreach with messages that have.
Thank you so much, Adamu. I was thanking you for, assisting us by telling us, the journey of where you started and where you are now, and which I'm sure will be useful to a lot of our civil society organizations listening today. I'm glad to have Bosse back. And Bosse, I was asking, for you as as a head of your organization, if you can share with us some of your organization's experience in safeguarding. What have you put in place in your organization?
Thank you so much. Glad to be here. I want to say very well that RSH helped us a lot in designing and mentoring us in terms of developing our policies that we now have in place in Women's Rights and Health Project. As an organization that's our vision is to work with women and girls, especially at community level. When we first got involved in mentorship, we saw it as something that we are so much interested in. And so for us, safeguarding addresses the issues that we also speak about. We are organizations that work on issues of sexual and gender-based violence. But from the perspective of safeguarding, we now saw the need to work with our beneficiaries, put structures in place within the organizations to be able to address, to be able to prevent, address, and respond to issues of sexual harassment and abuse and exploitation, not only within our community, in our organization, but also within the community where we work. So for us, we've put structures in place. We've been able to have a safeguarding policy. We have sexual abuse policy. We have we put in place within the community ambassadors who addresses issues of safeguarding. We have on our website all, how will I put it? A kind of toll-free line where people can report to us on safeguarding. And we have a point person who work on, although we have not really had issues on.
Again, we have challenges today with connectivity. Maybe I could suggest that our panelists turn their cameras off unless they are actually speaking, as that might help. And I'll now turn the question to Josephine. From what has been discussed, what are the roles of CSO leaders like yourself in maintaining the safeguarding culture in your organization?
Oh yeah, for me, I always say that as a civil society leader in different form, I say that what is the need for me and for my colleagues? We have come a long way. Why do you want to found an organization that live for 10 years and just for one day, somebody runs it down for you? And I think that it is the responsibility of leaders. I speak to you this morning. Just last week, I had a vendors meeting just to discuss safeguarding. Because for me, safeguarding as a leader is not just about the organization that I work for or the staff that work in that organization. The environment and my immediate community must be safeguarded so we can fit into that community. We'd rather fit into a safeguarded community than be champions of safeguard. The reason is this, like 4 years ago, JDF would have run down just because we didn't know that we had an issue with our governors and it wasn't a clear issue. But every time a donor comes to us and is very happy to work with us, and JDF is dropped in the safeguard, it pops up that your governors has issues, and nobody told me. And so we're just losing donors. Partners will come today, tomorrow they are happy, they have done everything, waiting to sign contracts, and then you don't hear from them again. That is something safeguard does to organizations, and it can run you down in months. for an organization you have put in. So for us leaders, we must be conscious. We must make sure that as our role, like JDF today for us, particularly with the help of this organization that has put this together, RSHF, who has put this together, they have mentored us for several months. And I remember I sent this link to all the networks that I lead, and those who came up have benefited from this. I know a lot of civil society will be online today just so we can know, because it is new. But I tell you folks, if you do not have safeguard, your lifespan is short. So we need to consciously and deliberately begin to think of the way we are going to put ourselves together. Policies may work. All the policies will only work if your safeguard, it's tight and in place and it's implemented. It's not just about a blueprint put on the shelf. It's about the implementation, the same way we audit our budgets. Can we audit the safeguard? The states where JDF works in Nigeria, we have got all the focal points. And I am the most senior focal point of safeguard in JDF. And it's very important. I keep saying what is in it for me because it's value for money. I don't want the work I have done for 18 years run down the drain just for a reason that I may not even know, that no one will tell me. So it is very important that leaders should champion the safeguard process at their local organizations level. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, for sharing your experience. And, you came up with some, really profound statements. I took note of one of them. If you do not have safeguarding, your lifespan is short. And, just also talking about how it needs to, move from the organization to the community. And it is not just enough for us to be champions of safeguarding, but to make sure we have that safeguarded community in line very much also with what Bosse shared and how they have ambassadors in the community. And Adamu, in the same vein, what would you say is your role as part of the leadership in maintaining the safeguarding culture in your organization? As you have told us, you're in the humanitarian sector.
Yeah, thank you. My role as a leader in my organization is actually trying to make the PSA and then safeguarding policy not just to be for the purpose of showcasing to the donor that yes, we have such policies in place, but actually owning and ensuring the utilization of that policy. So in such case, it's a must for us to, as a leaders, to also give an oversight of the PSA prevention and response, when it comes to using or institutionalizing the PSA in our organization. And beyond that, there's also need, because anything requires the resources, like ensure that we have a trained a focal person who has been given terms of reference to actually understand what are his or responsibility and engage in opportunities like RSH, where mentorship can also be, opportunities for mentorship is available, where the focal persons can also actually develop their own capacity. And there's also, beyond just my organization, there's also need to coordinate with other actors, like in the sectors where I belong to. We try to coordinate and share information regarding safeguarding and PSA. And, if there are cases that I cannot actually be able to manage, possibly maybe in the sector, we have other people who have more capacity and strength to be able to intervene. So they come in to support. I also facilitate, oversee this SCA allegation, like being part of the investigation as a leader, because that is when you actually given people that confidence that yes, you are really serious about ensuring the safeguarding MPSA policy in organization to actually be part of the investigating committee and taking lead. You know, if it is to travel to a community, I take lead and travel and investigate all these allegations without just leaving as, oh, yeah, you, the focal person, just go and do everything. I try to participate in the whole process. So as leaders, if you do that, you're actually building a system and culture to actually see to the implementation and you know, abiding by the policy that you actually have in an organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much for reinforcing the importance of ownership at the leadership level that should transcend all the way down the ladder. And, you know, and also sharing that, you know, we don't have monopoly of knowledge, and therefore, you know, when it's necessary to invite support, that we should do that. Bosse is back with us now. Bosse, tell me, in your experience, from what we've discussed, what are the key challenges that CSOs face in integrating safeguarding into their operations and programs? And how can we, you know, deal with these challenges and maintain the safeguarding culture? You're on mute, Bosse.
The organization must have first deal with the fact that we do know that safeguarding is a new policy that is coming on, and they must have that good political will to make sure that safeguarding policies are not just policies that you establish, but that you must walk the talk. That means you must follow the policy from the, you know, from what you set out to do to the end. But I do know that they will have challenges of training staff, making sure that staff are retained, which I think is one of the benefits you enjoy when staff knows that they are in a safe environment, where they are protected, where they know that the environment is all right for them to work. So that is very important. Another factor is the fact that it's always very difficult for further to give more money for training on safeguarding. But what we have tried to do with that in my organization is to build it in as one of our key factors. For example, every Monday we have what we call check-in meetings, and we extend various topics under the safeguarding to any of the staff that is willing to talk on each of the topics, because we need to build the capacity. And our monthly meetings, most community people are engaged in our community meetings, because we must carry them along. We must carry the community you serve along. The staff must be engaged effectively in terms of looking at the policy and making sure that the policies are, addressed from prevention, from investigation, and from response in terms of when it does happen. You must put structures in place to do that. So those are challenges. We think that if there is no political will with the leadership of the organizations, then there might be a problem. And then getting the board members to buy into your safeguarding policy, it's also very important if you must meet some of these challenges. And then we have other factors within, in terms of response. For example, if you need to visit the police, or you need to bring in external factors to investigate some of the issues that you have found, that might be a problem, because of the other factors within the police environment might not be what you as an organization, you will want to take it beyond what the police will want to take it. I guess you understand what I mean by that. that sometimes you are seeing the case, the police probably is not investigating the case as fast as we want to see. So these are some of the challenges we do find, I guess that will be there if with issues of safeguarding in the, in an organization.
Thank you so much, Bosse. You have, told us clearly that we must walk the talk. You have shared some, very real challenges that CSOs face in their safeguarding work. And, you've highlighted the point of, ensuring that there's a budget line when CSOs, there should be a budget line for safeguarding when CSOs write their proposals. And thank you for, raising, constituencies that are not always within one's control. Josephine, I'm sure you too have experienced challenges in trying to walk the talk. Can you tell us about some of the challenges that you have faced as a CSO leader? And what efforts you have made to maintain the safeguarding culture in your organization?
Thank you very much. Truthfully, for JDF, we first heard about safeguarding from a partner who also, not just about ticking the boxes, but also going to the donor with the right document, needed to get their partners also do some sort of pencil down the fact that we have safeguarding. This was very useful, but it wasn't so useful because there wasn't a real-time training. There wasn't a real-time engagement. It was just some questionnaires, some discussions around that. So safeguarding was there, but okay, what is it? All right, this is what we have to do. But it didn't come down the way we expected. Now, JDF knows that safeguarding is not something someone needs to ask you to do, but you know that it should be a top priority within this organization if we must survive. Now, for the challenges, same way gender has been a challenge, this is how safeguarding is been a challenge. When you develop a proposal from concept no to whatever, and you have safeguard as some budget line, this may not be the priority of your donor or your partner. And so they're looking at, okay, we give you an envelope, whatever you want to do with your budget, that's it. Now, this envelope is not enough to even pay your staff the reward system that you have put in place. They have just blankly said, okay, you do what you want to do with it. No one is going to prioritize safeguarding as, it doesn't bring you money. It doesn't bring back money immediately. Now, but the staff need to work. So you must prioritize them. You must prioritize admin and all of the other pranks that we have. But to have donors or partners to deliberately request, like I am advocating right now, that every donor who is talking about a gender marker should put it down as something they want to audit the same way they audit their budgets. If safeguarding becomes a system that we want to audit and be sure that it's not just about the talk, but like my sister said, is walking the talk. It's going to be easier for us because it's been challenging since we do not have a budget line, but thank God to I always miss the acronym. RSH, for having put together the trainings that, not for this organization, we would not have been serious about safeguarding, but it costs money. It costs a lot of money to get organizations come to this point. As a civil society leader, I am thinking, should I be the only one to survive? There are a lot of other network members who are doing a lot of good work. How do we get them to do what is right? Get the policies and get to implement and make the society around them better and safer for work and for other things. How do we do this? For me, if you ask me, the challenge go back to the leadership of this organization, RSA, to go back and see how they can be strengthened enough and raise more resources, and not just for the little ambassadors you have today, but broaden this out and work in partnership, even if it means that we contribute. You've got the expertise, pay off your expertise, let them come to us, we contribute our quota so that our organizations, much more civil society in Nigeria, will benefit from Safeguard, and not just the few that are on board right now. For me, it's a platform I really would love to use again to say this, that, I mean, it's more useful to have 150 organizations in Nigeria. That is very handful. Have Safeguard and then take it down the road, and then make sure that down to the CBUs, we get educated on Safeguard. And then we may have an environment safe from PA Safeguard challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josephine. It's not about ticking the boxes, as you have said. And you have now, also brought in the issue of advocating for donors in and of themselves to, recognize that there should be dedicated, ring-fenced budgets and resources allocated to safeguarding. Adamu, I see you nodding your head there. What challenges have you had, and how have you dealt with them?
Yeah. So actually, I think the reason I'm nodding my head is actually because Josephine and Bosse have actually spoken to the key challenges we're facing. Actually, for civil society leaders, for organizations like ours, when it comes to financial resource, actually that is where we have some limitations. And we have the other resource like human resource staffs who are trained to actually carry on with this, with awareness creation, engaging communities and staff with issues related to safeguarding and PSCA. And one of the key challenges personally as an organization I'm having is actually to be able to have a financial resource to develop IEC materials, that will ease the passing of message in the communities where we work, even around offices, to have communication materials around, talking about the PSCA safeguarding issues, and which will also, like, for someone who we have not engaged with one-on-one, may see the material read and then automatically understand and get acquainted to what those safeguarding and PSCA policies are. Beyond that, like in our context, we need to have we need to have well-developed jingles, like that talks about PSCA, because safeguarding and PSCA is broad, like we have all agreed, in our previous discussion, and it requires a lot of input, financial, human resource. So for civil society, I think we will, but it's not always very simple. It's difficult, but we take ownership of that and do, as we can, bit by bit. And I hope we'll definitely get there, when we have a well-defined timeline and plan of activity to actually, implement and see to the safeguarding and PSCA policies have actualized it.
Thank you so very much, Adamu. At this point, I know that there's so much more, our panelists can contribute, but we want to hear also from the participants. So I will thank our panelists for their very illuminating reflections, in being frank and honest about limitations, and more importantly, sharing with us your resolve as leaders to literally swim against the tide. So I see that we have a few questions. We're urging you very kindly to please use the Q&A function rather than the chat function, very kindly. So there's so to the panelists now, there's a question from, I think it's Britu, that says, does safeguarding policy apply only within the office environment? And is the safeguarding policy only important for NGOs? So, you know, 2 questions in one there from Pritu. So any of the panelists want to go first? And, you know, all of you can chip in, please.
Okay, can I respond to that? Safeguarding policy is not only only within the organization, and that shows as to what I have mentioned, that we have safeguarding ambassadors within the community. But as an organization, you need to develop policies that will enable you to address them when they come. I think all organizations should have a safeguarding policies in their organization. Whether you are a CSO, just like you have policy, staff policy of how they resume, maternity policy and all that. Safeguarding, it's very important, because when you have the drivers of PSEA in any community is where you have a boss or a senior person and you have a younger person. And there's the tendency for some abuse to happen, and it can be in any organization. It doesn't necessarily have to be within the CSO environment. So I have been able to, for example, have responded to a case. They came to us before we got involved in safeguarding, when in a Chinese company, a girl was being sexually abused because she's a casual worker. So those can happen, you know, in any organization. So that's my contribution.
Thank you. Adamu, I noticed that you had wanted to respond to that question as well.
Yeah, safeguarding is not only functional within the 4 walls of the office. It carries beyond that, even in community, even if you had traveled out of where your office is, not only within staffs alone, but even the people you engage with. For example, in my organization, we don't work alone. Like, we engage other services from other people, like vendors who supplies food, like drivers who conveys our staffs. Even, you know, it's applicable to them also. Like in the clause of our engagement, we have a clause where it states about safeguarding and PSCA, where they sign to our staffs, our volunteers in community, they sign code of conduct. And remember, you carry the image of your organization. So don't think if you are not within your office, you can do anything outside the office or maybe in the community and you feel you cannot be traced or you cannot be reported. No, it applies to you anywhere you find yourself. Safeguarding and PSCA is applicable to you, not only to civil society organizations, including UN agencies, the national, international non-governmental organizations, humanitarian, and even in developmental context. So it's all applicable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have quite a few questions in the Q&A now. From Sarah Martin. It says, thank you to the panelists. We are Partners for Health Equity, a Nigerian-based NGO working with vulnerable persons in order to increase access to healthcare. Do you have any advice for new NGOs starting out on how to integrate safeguarding into their work right from the beginning? So if I ask any one of our panelists to very briefly respond to that so that we take several questions that are in the Q&A, please.
Well, can I respond, please?
Yes, by all means.
Okay. Well, for me, I think that partnership goes beyond just having to get things done at levels we think is higher. But I think this is at the level where we can begin partnership. Today, there are partners that have gone through the process. And I think that whether they're still there or not, we should be able to share our knowledge with other partners who are interested to have this. And for me, JDF, the little we know, we're happy to share, because we really, really do want our communities and everyone, not just civil society, everyone in our locality to be practice safeguarding, because it is just for NGOs to start a process like always that may run down the road. You can't come from any community to be employed in the civil society sector, and safeguard would apply to you. So it is very important for you, even as an individual, to seek to know what is safeguard and how can I practice safeguard, even as someone who does not have a job, not just that you are at a job. So for us, we are happy to share the little knowledge we have. Whoever wants to come our way, to share that knowledge we have with you.
Thank you so much, Josephine. There's a question from Simon that says, what if it is the board member that is involved in a safeguarding concern? What will the organization do? And I'll take it along with the question from Fentahun from Ethiopia that says, what type of leadership style is better to be exercised to effectively practice safeguarding? So the first one that asks, what if it's the board member that's the perpetrator or involved in a safeguarding concern? Who would like to take that?
Well, I like to say that there isn't just one board member. I know that for every board, it's not just one single person sitting at the board. So the board may either have a chairman. If the chairman is the one perpetrating, there should be another board member that you can first get to, that can take this report. And the mechanisms are built in such a manner that it can be escalated beyond the organization herself. So every time there is a limit, there is certainly another level that this can be escalated to. All we need is to know what are the laid-down principles or procedures in reporting safeguarding. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to add to that question, if we don't have a visible board members, we have ghost board members who don't understand how the organization works and they don't sign to the policies, because most policies are supposed to be signed by the BOT of organization. So they should be in picture of what they are really assenting to, and nobody is exceptional, like from BOT down to volunteer in an organization are no exception when it comes to safeguarding and PCA. It applies to everybody.
Thank you very much. And Louise Gyunka says, can safeguarding be frustrated by government policies? Any one of our panelists can please take that?
I don't know specifically, because the question does not specifically on what nature or what type of the government policy that will likely frustrate the transparency of, to ensure the safeguarding policies are in place, because it involves everywhere, and we as a civil society organization will continue to advocate and to engage. I don't know exactly, unless if you will maybe ask more questions that will clearly, maybe with some instance where he felt some government policy can actually frustrate the safeguarding policy. Otherwise, no government policy to me, as far as I'm concerned, as based on my own knowledge, that will actually frustrate the safeguarding and PSA policy.
Yeah, thank you so much. And there's a specific question for Bosse. This is from an anonymous attendee that would like to ask Bosse in particular, how did your organization identify and train community members to be safeguarders, please?
Okay, thank you so much. In this community, we have been in this community for 10 years. We've been working in that community, and they have been our community mandated reporters, that we have trained on issues about human rights. Of course, we know that safeguarding is about respecting human rights. So these are mandated reporters that have gone through the human rights training, gender training, response to SGBV. So bringing them to safeguarding was very easy for us, for us to identify them, because they've been working with us within the community.
Thank you so very much, Bosse. At this point, I think we have answered pretty much all of the questions. There's one that is to the Resource and Support Hub, which we will be able to provide answers to when we share some links. At this point, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to make a closing statement, just to leave a word of advice by way of closing for our participants. And I will start with Adamu, please. What are your words of wisdom as we come to the close of this panel?
Thank you. In short, I was caught. In short, I think I would like to, looking at the participants that we have, likely they are from the civil society organizations and possibly maybe other organizations too. Safeguarding is a key aspect of our development. Looking at, we are the eyes of the people. We are the mouth of the people. We speak for the most vulnerable and the most marginalized. So let's take this as a commitment to actually put this learning into action and to develop and have a workable PSCA policy, PSCA and safeguarding policy in our organization. If we do that, the sky is our starting point. So remember, the world is changing, so a lot needs from us, and we need to live to that expectation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I do see an additional question that maybe I missed earlier that asks, how can a research organization implement the safeguarding policy? This time it's for a research organization. So would any one of you, Bosse, Josephine, because you haven't made your closing words of wisdom, could you answer the question first and then give your closing words of wisdom to our participants, please?
Dr. Lana, I didn't get the question, I'm sorry.
It's just, okay, it was asking how a research organization this time, not a CSO,
Yes,
can implement the safeguarding policy.
as long as it's an organization, I guess that it's something that's, like Adamu said, it's a commitment we must have within our organization to have various policies. And I think if we can take it, more in terms of what operates within the research environment, is also interacting with people. So if you are interacting with people, male, female, you know very well that this policy is very, very vital, in terms of doing that. So my last word, I want to say that safeguarding for me is the oxygen of any organization, of any society. If you don't have the policy in place, if you don't walk the talk, if you don't respect the fact that you need human beings to work with you and drive whatever process, then that organization is going to fail. So for me, safeguarding is the oxygen. of any organization. Without oxygen, we cannot live. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that profound statement, Bose. Josephine, very briefly, your closing words of wisdom, please.
I will invite my colleagues to take safeguarding seriously, not just as a statement or just something that we append on at our proposals, but take it, like Bossa said, as an oxygen of the organization. If we must survive, if we must get in the new space, just like we have the new normal today, safeguarding is a new normal for all organizations. If you want to continue work and you want to be respectful to your staff and ensure your environment is friendly with dignity and respect, we must all embrace safeguarding and ensure the visible practice of safeguarding and not just documented documents on our sheets. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, dear panelists, participants. You have heard it. Safeguarding is our oxygen. Our very survival depends on it. It is the new normal. And you know, this is something that we do, ensuring the dignity and respect of all those that we interact with in our work. So that's all we have time for today. And I want to thank again Adamu, Bosse, and Josephine for your informative presentations.
Thank you.
And to all of you for your engaging and challenging questions. We will shortly be sharing a poll with you with some questions. Please do complete the poll, as it helps us to tailor our services to suit you and to continue to improve the events that we deliver. For further information, there are many resources available to you. For a comprehensive guide to implementing safeguarding, please do visit the Resource and Support Hub's Safeguarding landing page, where you can still continue discussions. You can find a link to that in the chat. We will be sharing this webinar recording and slides with you shortly, as well as some other related resources. And if you want to access more information from our experts, please visit our Ask an Expert service. The link is also in the chat. Thank you, and we hope to connect with you again soon. All the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Thank you.